Welcome to another edition of SVSU Red Alert, your weekly update on Saginaw Valley State University athletics. I'm your host, JJ Boehm. The SVSU football team mounted a comeback charge but came up short in their road game against Hillsdale last week. They now get set to take on Ohio Dominican. We'll review all that with their head coach, Jim Collins, and we'll also get an update on men's and women's basketball with their head coaches, Randy Baruth and Jamie Pawinski. That's all ahead on this edition of SVSU Red Alert. Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, joined by SVSU head football coach Jim Collins. And Coach, kind of a tale of two halves for your team. Unfortunately, in the loss to Hillsdale, 24-17 the final, you dug yourselves a 17-0 deficit at the half and just too big a hole to dig out of.
Well, you know, JJ, you make a great point. Digging yourself in that hole is not the plan of action going into the game. I thought we played well in the first quarter defensively, and I thought we moved the ball as good, you know, as we've moved it offensively, but two big turnovers, one on a third down pass that their defensive end made a great play, and then on another one we had a big run that would have given us the ball on their side of the field in pretty good position, but we got the ball knocked out and we fumbled it. So gave Hillsdale two great opportunities with great field position to go down and score. And when you fall behind like that on the road, it makes things tough. Proud of the way we battled and fought in the second half, but you know, digging yourself in that 17-point hole is tough to get out of.
And then the other thing that I thought hurt your team in that first half was some untimely and uncharacteristic penalties where, you know, you can't tell from the press box, but you know, senior defensive ends were jumping off sides, and that helped Hillsdale extend a few drives.
Exactly, and on three of those third down plays, they threw incomplete passes that would have forced a punt and gotten us the football back. So those were drive extending penalties, and you know, not something that we've dealt with all year long. We picked probably the worst time to have it happen, very inopportune. But the bottom line is, once again, you know, you still have to be able to come back on that next down and get the stop. We weren't able to do that in those situations. Forced the field goal the one time, but just not enough. 17 points at halftime is tough. But I'll say this, JJ. You know, we got in that locker room at halftime, and you know, as a coaching staff, we got excited in the locker room. We talked about what we needed to do in the second half, and I thought we responded the way we needed to respond, just not enough.
And really the big play of that second half and what really seemed to jumpstart your entire team was, you know, first of all, Hillsdale made a switch at quarterback. C.J. Mifsud wound up starting for them. First game he'd started all year. He did a good job. The one errant pass he did throw, Noah Sumter was able to intercept it and return it 75 yards for a touchdown. You know,
and that was a great play, great individual effort. The ball was slightly tipped. Noah was at the right place at the right time with the tip drill, but his run, his return was a big-time return. He outran their whole team. He got a couple blocks from his teammates. That ignited us, started getting us going. And then, you know, we only have the ball two more times in that game, and we go down and kick a field goal on one to cut the lead to 7, and then the last drive we went down and scored a touchdown to cut the lead again to 7. So, you know, as I said, you can't not execute at the level we weren't able to execute at and still have a chance to win the game. And the bottom line is too little too late, but as we said, JJ, we made some big plays. Our kids fought and scratched. They didn't give up. They battled, but not enough.
What do you do to get more offense going, both in terms of scoring points and in terms of big plays? I know it's something you've been talking about all season. If it were just as easy as drawing it up, it'd be working by now. But obviously it's something you need to continue to working on because it's not showing up as often as I know you would like.
You know, and it's really two things. Number one, there's some times that we don't execute. We had a couple drop balls in key situations early in that first quarter. And we had a couple passes where we had open guys for big plays, and the pass wasn't on target. That's number one. The other thing is we also had some plays in there where we lost yardage. Give you a great example. In that second quarter, we come out first down, we hit an 8-yard pass, we feel like we got something going, and on the next play we lose 6 yards because they beat us up front. We didn't block the right scheme, and they made a great play. So what we got to do is number one, more consistency on first down. We can't get in second and longs. But then the other thing is we need to eliminate these negative plays. I mean, we had about 3 or 4 plays that resulted in 4, 5, and 6 yard losses that weren't sacks. They were design runs where they got great penetration, or there was a blitz and they made that tackle in the backfield. Those are the two key things, because if you're going to be in 2nd and long or 3rd and long, you're not going to have success. So better job on 1st down of executing, and then maintaining that schedule, not losing yards at any point.
I know, obviously, you never want to use injuries as an excuse either, but particularly on the offensive side of the ball, you are having to juggle guys, it seems, week in and week out in terms of this past week, more changes, both at the receiver position and on the offensive line. How much does that affect the continuity of the offense?
I mean, it obviously has an effect on it. You know, you lose a great player like Logan Hauserman at left tackle. He's a 4-year starter, 3.5-year starter. And we replace him with Trevor Wheaton, who is a good player, good utility player, can play all those positions. But that does, you know, Trevor hadn't played it up until that game. So that's number one. And then the receiving core, as you mentioned, we lose a Logan Hesbrook and Alfonso Voltaggio, who both had pretty good games against Northwood, and they're not in the lineup. So now you're throwing new people in, and you're really finding out who can play. And a great example is Max Corcoran. Got his chance in that game. I thought made 3 really good plays, a couple of key 3rd down catches to extend drives, some good runs, physical, tough runs after the catch. And so, you know, at the same time you're going through this tough adjustment of having new players, you're also, I think, giving other guys a chance and seeing what they can do, and that's really important in this time of year.
At this point, too, you got 2 games left in the season. Ohio Dominicans coming up next. But the other thing that you see week in and week out is you wish that you weren't in these difficult situations, but every week the team's still out there and they're fighting till the bitter end.
Exactly. And right now, a lot of the young guys on our team are learning what this league and how competitive this league is on every single play. And we had a great discussion with some of those redshirt freshmen. A lot of them are playing for us, and they can see it. They're starting to see how consistent you have to be, how hard you have to work on every play. You can't take a play off. And I think that learning experience is obviously building and getting better and improving as the year goes on, and their attitudes towards it all are helping our football team grow and mature. And I think, you know, it's going to really set a tone for these next 2 weeks and then leading into the offseason.
Well, the Cardinals do have a couple of weeks remaining. Coming up next, the Cardinals will be taking on Ohio Dominican, and we'll preview that one a little bit later on. But when we come back, I'll be joined by SVSU women's basketball coach Jamie Pawinski. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week's Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week is Shaked Bukhar. Bukhar, a freshman on the women's swimming and diving team, helped the Cardinals record 2 more victories on Saturday, 11-1, and remain unbeaten in the program's first season. Bukhar claimed 3 individual victories in 3 events on Saturday for the Cardinals. She helped the 400-yard medley relay team claim the top spot with a time of 4:08:03 as well. The freshman was dominant in the 1,000-yard freestyle as she posted an 8-second victory over the nearest competitor. Bukhar was victorious in the 200-yard butterfly and the 500-yard freestyle to finish her afternoon. The Cardinals returned to action this Saturday, 11-8, when they traveled to Marquette, Michigan for a meet against the GLIAC opponent, Northern Michigan. The meet is scheduled to begin at 11 a.m. Shaked Bukhar, your Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, joined by SVSU women's basketball coach Jamie Pawinski. And Jamie, welcome back to Red Alert.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And let's talk about your team now as you get ready for the 2014-2015 season. You graduate a couple of seniors,
Yep.
but you also get a player back who was freshman of the year 2 years ago in Emily Wendling, now back healthy.
Yeah, obviously getting Emily back is a big lift for us. You know, she was picked preseason first team all conference, so the respect is there from everybody on what Emily can do. So obviously we'll try to build around her, and you know, she's going to be a little rusty, I'm sure, initially. She's working her way back into game shape and game action. But, you know, we only have 2 new kids coming in after losing Kayla and KG. So, you know, we have some experience there. We should be able to work around her pretty well.
Talk about your team and what you're looking for from them this season, because obviously last year you had a very competitive team all throughout the season.
Well, we really have a group of kids being forced to play different roles. You know, we do have some injuries, forcing some players into positions they haven't been in, or forcing roles, new roles that we haven't had to, there's been no pressure on some of these kids. So they've got to kind of live up to that. But we're really looking for some consistency. You know, we're struggling with that in practice, just to get consistent effort and consistent production out of some kids. And I think as we go along, they'll figure that out. And as roles get more established and people get healthy and get back in the lineup. But you know, it's going to have to be kids playing a little out of position and taking on a leadership role to be able to do that and fulfill the role at the same time.
What did your players learn last year going through a season where you do have big games and you are in pressure situations at the end of games, to be able to bring that back to this season when you're picked 4th in the North Division, but certainly I think those 4 teams at the top are all going to be very competitive.
Sure. You know, I think the biggest thing we learned was how tough our conference is. I mean, every day, if you take one day off or you don't prepare yourself, you're going to get beat. And it doesn't matter what the team's record is going in, you're going to get beat. So I think we learned how to prepare for the length of the season. You know, every day we kind of took it a little differently as far as how to prepare for the game coming up, how to prepare for the season and keep ourselves healthy. So the biggest thing is really trying to figure that out with these kids. What do these kids need to get prepared for that game that's coming up or that competition? Or, you know, we face so much different types of defenses or different offenses, and we have to guard differently for everybody. So it's really kind of figuring out what they learned last year that's going to be their strength, but then trying to get their weaknesses up as well.
Well, we mentioned Emily and her return to the lineup, but who are some of the other key players that you're counting on for your squad this season?
Well, Sam, you know, Sam Zierzo, she's always key for us. I mean, this is her 4th year. She's pretty much the only player that's played every game for us and started every game in her career. So she understands what we want. She understands what we need. She understands this conference. She's a little bit of a matchup nightmare. She's really worked on her perimeter game. She's able to step out a little bit and shoot it. She's handling the ball right now. And so we're looking for her to really take her game to the next level, but also her leadership ability. And Brianna Graham's done a great job coming back, and she's in great shape and looking to really pick up some of that slack for some of the guards that are out right now. So we're excited for really that senior class. You know, Shelby's going to be in there with Emily a little bit and backing up Emily at the same time. So we're looking for those 3 to really take over for us.
And what are you looking for from your team now as you get into the non-conference portion of your schedule, obviously building up towards conference play?
Yeah, we're going to use non-conference to kind of get acclimated in our new positions and fill our new roles. We have a really good schedule. I think we play some really good teams, and obviously we start with Lewis, who's number 8 in the country preseason. So, you know, there's no time to really just take some time off. You've got to figure it out on the fly. So I believe in that game right now we'll have about 7 healthy, so those kids will get to know each other pretty well, and we've got to fight through some adversity, and you know, each game brings a little bit of adversity, and we've got to figure out a way to stay mentally tough and get focused. So that's kind of what we're looking for in those preseason games, just some preparation and some mental toughness.
Well, hopefully you get that preparation and mental toughness, and hopefully get your squad ready once conference play rolls around.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks.
That is SVSU women's basketball coach Jamie Pawinski. When we come back, I'll be joined by SVSU men's basketball coach Randy Baruth. That's next on SVSU Red Alert. Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, joined now by SVSU men's basketball coach Randy Baruth. Randy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, JJ.
And there's no line about basketball players. You know, the best thing about freshmen is that they become sophomores.
Yeah.
And obviously you had a squad last year with a lot of freshmen, not exclusively freshmen, but a lot of freshmen in key roles. How have they developed now going into their sophomore season?
Well, they're a year older, you know, physically, mentally, you know, all those things. So, so that's been nice. And you can clearly see that they are a year older as far as we're not where we want to be, you know, but I think any coach, you know, you're talking to, you know, a friend of ours that coaches, and, you know, like he said, the great teachers are always evaluating, and when they're reevaluating, they always start from backwards and they go forwards every day. And I think we're not by any means where we are ever want to be, but we're definitely a lot farther than where we were. So, so basically, coaches are never happy, and so it's never going to hit that point until we get it the way we want it.
What did you learn about your very young team last year now that helped you evaluate and helped you prepare going into this season?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that I learned as being a young coach is just how much experience has so much to do with a team. I mean, you look at our first year here, I didn't feel we were nearly as talented as last year, but we had 5 seniors, and they just knew things that you didn't have to teach, that you didn't even know you had to teach. So it kind of made you look like you were a better teacher than what you really were. And then last year, it exposes you on how bad or good of a teacher you are when you bring in a bunch of kids and you say, let's go do this, and they look at you like, what do you mean? And so that happened a lot. And so it really exposed it, and to me, it taught me a lot about just the word experience and our staff. I think the second thing is that, that everything, it's really going in a great direction. I mean, aside from, you look at the record or whatever it is, but I mean, to have 90% of your points and minutes returning virtually for the next 2 or 3 years is a really good plus. So we just got to keep building it and filling in the pieces behind it and just keep getting better.
Who are some of those guys who, were stepping up for you last year that now are going to have to do even more for you this season?
Yeah, I think that I thought CJ and Garrett have come back. I've not had 1 minute we've felt that they are not hungry, that they're satisfied, even having the really good freshman years that they had. I thought we thought Damon's made a really huge leap. His second year was kind of that sophomore year where he had a good freshman year, and your sophomore year you're kind of figuring it out again, and maybe you think that it's a little more, not have to work as hard to earn it. But he's come in really hungry, and he's had some really good weeks of practices and scrimmages and stuff with him. I think the kid from Australia, Wade, who started at the post for us last year, he trimmed down by about 11 pounds, got back to where he was in high school, so he's lighter, he's quicker, he's shooting it more, so he's virtually become now a 4-man instead of just that big bully 5-man, undersized 5-man. So we've had quite a few guys who just come back. I mean, John came back with a better body, and just Caleb put on 20 pounds. So, I mean, that's just all those little tangibles, and now we just got to keep building from where we're at.
What are you looking from your team to see in terms of, now you got a few weeks before conference play begins, because obviously I know you'd like to move up a couple of rungs in the conference ladder.
Sure, absolutely. Well, we went after a pretty rigorous preseason schedule. We open at Central Michigan a week from yesterday, and then we play Bellarmine, St. Joe's, and Lewis. Lewis is number 11 in the country. Bellarmine's number 16. And St. Joe's is in their second year, and they just brought in like 4 or 5 transfers, which we know who they are. And so, I mean, they're going to be a completely different team than they were in their first year. And so, I mean, that's our preseason. That's our first 4 or 5 games. And we did that on purpose. I mean, we got to get thrown into the fire, and you got to find out where you're at, and then you got to keep building it from there. So we're excited about the next 4 or 5 games, and to kind of see where our guys are at, and hopefully get smacked in the mouth a little bit, but not too much to where we get too rattled with it all. But it's exciting. So it'll be interesting to see how they go, and we added a few pieces to the puzzle with a little bit with some of these young guys, and see kind of how they all fit.
Well, hopefully everything does fit together, and you see that development from last year to this season. Randy Baru, thanks for joining us, and good luck.
You bet. Thank you, JJ.
And when we come back, I'll be rejoined by SVSU football coach Jim Collins. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week's Spring Hill Suites Male Athlete of the Week is Noah Sumter. Sumter, a senior on the SVSU football team, had a big game for the Cardinals against Hillsdale last Saturday on 11-1. Sumter got the Cardinals on the board when he intercepted a Charger pass in the third quarter and returned it 75 yards for a score. The senior recorded 3 tackles in the contest, including 2 for a loss. The defensive back has helped the Cardinals defense allow a 198.6 passing yards a game, which is good for 4th in the league. SVSU is 2-7 overall and 2-6 in the GLIAC this season. The Cardinals return to action on Saturday when they travel to Ohio Dominican University to take on the Panthers in a conference matchup. The game is scheduled to begin at 12 p.m. Noah Sumter, your Spring Hill Suites Male Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, rejoined by SVSU head football coach Jim Collins. And Coach, doesn't get any easier for you. Tough road loss at Hillsdale. Now you take on an Ohio Dominican team that is in control of its own destiny to make the playoffs, so you know they're going to be bringing everything they've got.
Absolutely. They got a good football team. They've got a lot of veterans. You know, you talk about where we are with a lot of redshirt freshmen, and when you look at Ohio Dominicans too deep, a lot of juniors and seniors, and obviously that's why the results speak for themselves. Good football team, well coached. You know, they won the league last year. They went undefeated through the league, got into the playoffs. I think they've come back strong. They've just had the one loss, and that's the Ferris. But you know, it just goes to show you how tight the league really is. A Hillsdale team a few weeks ago goes to Ohio Dominican, and it's a really tough physical game, close game. And you know, as we've told our players all along, every single game in the GLIAC is going to be competitive. You got to be at your best, both mentally and physically, in order to have an opportunity. And that's exactly what you want to do. You want to prepare every week and put yourself in a position to compete, battle, and win the football game.
You mentioned that Hillsdale game. Ohio Dominican won it, but it was just 9-3 in a battle of field goals. And obviously you're watching the tape from all those kinds of things. That's a few weeks ago, but I'm sure that gave you some insight in terms of what they at least were able to do effectively on that day.
Well, exactly. They played great defense. They played great defense in the red zone against them, and you know, I'm sure Ohio Dominican came out of that game thinking they had to work a little bit more on their offensive play in the red zone. But you know, that's 3 weeks ago. The bottom line is, Ohio, you're going to prepare every single week like it's a new mountain to climb. We know that. We understand that, and Ohio Dominican does as well. They've got good players, experience. They obviously know how to win. So it's going to be a great challenge for us, but it's a challenge our guys are up to and getting excited about.
What do you do now as well, and you mentioned it for these last two games, trying to make sure that you're trying to win these games, but also trying to figure out what you have coming back for next season? Because again, lots of people out there that are either banged up or have been lost for the season, so it is going to give a lot of guys opportunities for playing time.
Extremely important part of it is that the young guys developing and growing and getting better and understanding what it takes to win, putting themselves in a position to win and then finishing. But the other thing is the seniors. You know, they've got 2 games left. And as I told those seniors today, what they're going to remember most, and forget about what everyone else remembers about this season, but what they're going to remember the most are these last 2 football games, because they're going to want to finish playing their best football. And they can't control anything more than themselves and making sure they play their best football these last 2 games. So I think it's one of those things where you've got a sense of urgency with your seniors. They're going to want to play their best. And then the younger guys around them are going to not want to disappoint those seniors, play for the seniors, and send them out in a big way.
Well, hopefully they are able to send them out in a big way. Hopefully the Cardinals can come up with an upset on the road. Coach Collins, good luck against Ohio Dominican.
Thanks, JJ.
And we thank you for watching, and we hope that you have enjoyed this edition of SVSU Red Alert.